How are you doing, big sexy? Are you
Oh, well, well enough.
you've got a cold?
Just a cough to start about 2 minutes ago, so.
Nice. I had a pretty wicked one too. Here, let me pull up the old. Okay, so just had time to read chapter 10, but at least we can put this one to bed, I think, because this was fabulous. This was a great read. I only have a few suggestions at the end, but my God, I absolutely loved what you did here. Um, but nothing until we get here to this. So, um, I just am absolutely in love with what you did with Ramona. I think this was a brilliant move, better than I imagined. Actually, this was so good. You've got it in her head. These are little things. After the Matthias incident, as she was calling the incident, felt a bit repetitive, but I just go after the Matthias incident. You do what you want there. Um, it was that or prison, and who wouldn't join the BPA? Didn't seem much choice to her. This Nothing wrong with this, but a life of magic or prison cell. I already it's sort of saying the same thing a little bit twice, but other than that, God, it's so simple, it's so clean. Didn't seem like much of a life to her. She'd been told she would be attached to the agent. She had met Julius. It would be his job to teach her everything she know about the job. It's just super like clear. I know what's going on. It feels almost like a diary going through her head. Goes to the Sheikah. And then I love this. I love the way you revealed her strength and ability as just a natural part of setting things up. And the other wolves are looking at her like, what? Like you did in 2 paragraphs, what I don't know if I could have done in a page. Because what you do is you go, she could pick up 2 boxes at once with ease. That had turned everyone's, head. She effortlessly outdid them. I'm like, yes, yes, yes. All of this is amazing because you're revealing her power. You're doing it through the course of the action. You're not having any dialogue about it or everything. You're just showing her doing stuff. And I was just like, yes. And then you followed up with an equally wicked thing here. She couldn't tell what was more exhilarating. Now this is cool for a bunch of reasons, in my opinion. What you do here, she couldn't tell what was more exhilarating: being stronger than everyone, or starting out an adventure, or the lusty look some of the wolves were giving her. And I love that because that's not gratuitous. There's nothing about that. Like in another context, I might say, oh, that sounds cheesy and sexualized. Not here, because what you're doing is you're saying she couldn't tell. She's aware that they're looking at her and she's finding it exhilarating. So in other words, she's discovering her power over men, which is so important. You're building her character, but these are just two wicked reasons why I love that you did this. Number one, you're immediately following a paragraph that shows her physical power with the power of her personhood, her basically her feminine sexuality, and that's an important power for women to be able to harness rather than be taken advantage of it. If men are going to look at me, then I'm not going to be a victim with that. I'm going to use it to my advantage. And that's so smart. I love that. Um, Plus, the other reason I loved it is because it's such a yes answer to what happened to her in the graveyard. This is a girl who is really, really turning a corner without doing anything more than simply becoming aware of her power, like you did in the hospital bed, like you did with Matthias. So again, I think you're at your best when you, as far as Ramon is concerned, when you get in her head, you get in her thought process, and you just let it play out. And I needed to see this woman start to exerting power over men, not in a gender war way, not like women need to, diminish men to lift
Mhm.
women up. I hate that shit. You don't need to.
Oh yeah,
You don't need.
I have seen so many shows that did that, and they were all
Yeah.
terrible.
And there's no need for it. You don't need to make men look like shit to hold women up, and that's not what's happening here.
Well,
She's
not only that, but
simply,
if you're doing that, you're pissing off half your audience.
yeah. Well, it looks cheesy. Like we can all see through that. It's obvious that you're just doing it to make a feminist point. I'm a feminist, but I go "Ugh," when I see that shit. It drives me crazy because you don't need it.
Mhm.
So, oh my God, like this is like I couldn't have pictured you doing it this effectively in just the natural course of things. But you do it even more, and it gets even better. And this is what I love. So I come down to this part. So when Julius comes back and he's like, God fucking damn it again. And I like it. First, I was like, she was a little nervous around him. Hello, sir. And I thought, oh no, don't make her diminutive. And I think, no, it's okay if she's still a little bit nervous because she's still Ramona. She's still that little girl. She's coming into her power gradually, but she would still be intimidated. She hasn't suddenly become incapable of intimidation. But then I love what you do in her thought process here when you say Julius was scowling. So now what you've done is you've shifted the story away from focusing exclusively on Julius, and we have no idea what Ramon is thinking. You're looking at Julius through her eyes, and that is what makes this so powerful. The fact that she goes off in this stream of consciousness, Hayden, is what I love. Could he actually do that? It'd be really cool if he could. Maybe she should ask him to show her some magic stuff. That's kind of random stream of consciousness. Like she's nervous, but she's also got this kind of ADHD thing going on, like I do, where the brain is just like, oh, could he? Wow, could he really do that? That's crazy, right? And then I thought then you literally say, and I thought, oh man, he should snap her out of this, and then you literally say she was snapped out of her thoughts as Julia starts talking. This is so good. Now you've completely changed the tone and the feel of what you had last week, and this is brilliant. This is it's engaging too, man. Like as I'm reading this, I'm like, you're taking me in. You're making me really, really like her, respect her, want to see more from her, and you're doing it through her lens. It's just so good. And then this part, Ramona started, I was offered a job and then flown out here. She's not a mouse anymore. She's not someone who barely says a word because she's afraid. She's speaking. She's speaking with a certain degree of, I still don't understand what's going on, but she's speaking. Why was he? And then I love that you did this. When he says, why the fuck are you here? Better yet, how the fuck are you here? And by you adding what she's thinking in response to that, you've completely elevated the chapter. Why was he asking her this question? Shouldn't he know why she was here? He couldn't be that bad of an agent, could he? I love that. I think that's so good. Because he's judging, like she's innocently judging him. I don't mean thinking he's a bad guy, but she's like, what's with this guy? She doesn't know almost anything about Julius except a couple of little encounters he'd had before. And you might, because they do have a bit of a history, you could include it. Why was he asking this question? Shouldn't he know why she was here? I mean, so far he'd taken care of her and been there for her when she needed it. And now it looks like I wouldn't mind you referring to like what she would think of him up to this point, because they have had history and he's been pretty good. Why is the guy who's been taking care of me in the past now losing his shit? Well, she would know because of Matthias, but you could weave that in here. But even if you left it like this is so good. And then this just keeps getting better and better and better. She's a civilian. Until 3 days ago, she was a high school graduate. What are you talking about? According to her file, she spent a 4-year tour in Iraq with the military, and both she and Julius go, what? And I was like, that was so good. I thought, yeah, like it's a good response. It's a good question. But the fact that she's asking it too, so you completely won me over with this reading of, because she's got voice, she's got agency, and I like her. I'm taking her seriously. It's all so good. Even her responses here. Hey, I have super strength now, and I have magic. What can you do? I loved that. Oh, she was just so good. So everything, I think there's just everything from this point on. The red doesn't indicate there's anything wrong with it. I'm just going to make some suggestions of what I would do, and you do what you want with this. Okay. So first thing here, and it's all good because the flow is fantastic. What can you do? My first thought was that Julius wouldn't look her like she was an idiot. It would be more like a, how dare you look? Like, you don't, like, really? Like, not that she was stupid. How could she know? Like, she's not an idiot for not knowing what she couldn't know, but it's almost an insubordinate comment. He's in charge of her. She's under his rules. What can you do? So it's sort of like, it's a double-edged, like there's two things that are offensive about that question. If I'm Julius, number one, you don't know. Number two, excuse me, I'm in charge here. So it'd be like more of a look like, what? I think honestly that I would not do this part, and there's a reason for it. If she says, what can you do? And he starts going, well, I can do this and I can do this and watch this. I suddenly lose all respect for him, because I'm like, really? You just took the bait on that. She asked a question you just had to prove. My thought would be, he either says nothing, because it's in about a chapter she's going to find out, or however long it takes. She's also sort of seen what he can do, but not necessarily the magic part of what he can do. So my suggestion is he doesn't respond, but everybody else does. So my suggestion would be, if she says, what can you do? It's not Julius that gives the reaction. It's everybody else goes, whoa. It's like, because it's insubordinate, and they're like, oh, sister, You just wait. And it's way more interesting to me for him not to answer. Or she goads him, goads him, goads him, goads him until right before he calls Daphne, he does some wicked thing. But he doesn't say a word. To me, everybody else would say it. Because when he comes down here and says, "You completely derailed my point," I'm like, "No, you did, Julius, because you took the bait and stretched this part of the chapter out too long. It's your fault, not hers." That's the one thing I would do here. So I'd probably tend to cut that and then get her to the phone, just get him to the
So
phone.
just skip it, or should I have like Dick point out that Julius is a badass there then?
Well, because she's about to have a conversation with Dick, because I'm going to make some suggestions now about the conversation that she and Dick have while he's on the phone with Baker. But I think what I would do here is, what can you do? Everybody in the room goes, like suddenly a low went through the room as everybody looked at her, and he's like, "I'm going to call Daphne." He goes right to the phone. That's actually what I would probably do. And because what I'm really hoping to get to is this conversation between Ramona and Dick. So the other suggestion I would make is, I had a little bit of trouble with the idea that Dick gets off the phone from Baker and already knows full, because I don't know Baker yet, because I'm just literally being introduced to him in this moment. And besides, I don't want to know that he got on the phone personally. I don't want to know that he got off the phone and said, "Baker's trying to screw us. He only put you on this mission to fuck me over." And I'm like, oh, that would have been a really cool reveal later, maybe. And the other challenge with having that revealed here is that he knows that. Then he says, when Dick says, "Why are you taking her? You know we're going to die, and it's a setup." But he goes, "Well, if she wants to come, she can come." And I'm like, "No, Julius, that's not the point. The point." So I'm gonna make a suggestion that goes sort of a different direction, and which is what I really want to hear. Watching The Last of Us right now, and having played the game, what I love is how Ellie has no idea yet about what happened to Joel's daughter. And so all she sees is some crusty old cunt who just is always, right?
Mm.
She doesn't know his story. And I already know, once she finds his story out his story, he's going to be like, "Oh, I didn't know that." This is the moment where I would be very excited for you, rather than have a conversation about Baker. I would, because the conversation also feels a little lengthy. So this whole thing, I would, if he's going to say anything about Baker, I would make it much quicker. This is cute. I love what you did here. Very,
It was actually longer before, so
fair. I would probably cut it or save it. I would save it for another time and just have you say, "Who's Baker?" He and Julius don't get along. I would focus on how Baker and Julius don't get along, rather than how we all don't like him, because I kind of don't want to make a judgment of Baker yet. I want Baker to just be this talking head who's saying, "She's going with you anyway, follow orders." That's okay. All I need that conversation ultimately to be is him to go, "Baker, what is she doing here? Doesn't matter. She's yours." The end. And save the reveal for why Baker set this up later. Because what I really want to hear Dick and Ramona talk about is Julius. Because Julius is like, if it was me, I was like, "Dick, can I ask you an honest question? I mean, I know I'm nude, but do you mind?" He goes, "I can't figure this guy out. Like, he saved my life back in the graveyard. He was really nice to me in the hospital. He's trying to take out Matthias, and I still don't fully understand what that was about. Like, how did that happen? Next thing I know, I'm under arrest, and now I'm here with him, and he doesn't want me here. But um, I can can you?" But cut through all of the, can you just tell me a little bit about this guy? And I would rather see an exploration of Dick reveal whatever you think he should reveal at this point. Save till later what you want to save. But I feel like this conversation is actually a moment for Ramona to get to know him through Dick a little bit, so that when he gets off the phone with Baker, which that conversation only needs to be, "She's going with you. That's the order. Never mind." Because, when he says, "Okay, I guess I got to take you," I would rather Ramona sort of look, he comes back all crusty, but now Ramona's looking at him with, this guy's more complicated than I thought. And she doesn't have to say anything. She just say, so when he comes back, and I would almost rather they get in a little bit more of a fight, Ramona, rather than Ramona lean into the, "Oh, show me your tricks." I'd have Ramona, lean and says, "Well, I can do stuff, what can you do?" And she go, and that kind of thing like that. I don't, I've been taking it for men, for she can make her go wherever she wants. But to me, I would almost rather see them get into an intense moment, although that's a good one. You have "What can you do?" And you're like, "Oh," so then he gets on the phone. "No, leave it. Forget everything I just said. What can you do?" Gets on the phone, gets off the phone, and he marches over to her. He says, "Okay, well, I guess you got to come with me and follow my orders, okay? And Ramona now is going, okay, yeah, whatever you need. And he's like, huh? Like, you were a bitch to me before I got on the phone, and maybe he looks at Dick like, what did you tell her? Kind of thing like that, but he doesn't say it, right? He says, okay, let's get on the plane. Now it's a beautiful scene about we got a little more information about Julius, and you're building the bond between Ramona and Julius. That is, I think, more important than anything else in this chapter. They're not friends by any means at this point in the story. Just a tiny bit of an empathy. They can fight like cats and dogs the whole rest of the story, whatever you want to do. But this was the moment when Ramona started to see that Julius wasn't just an old curmudgeonly fuck, right? That would be interesting to me. And then honestly, I would get to the end as quick as possible because I think you turn this 9-page chapter into a 7-page chapter easily. Because when we get down to, that conversation would also take care of this comment down here. You can't be serious. Why would you let her come? And I'm like, yeah, there's literally no good reason to let her come. So if he understood that Baker was setting him up, but if you remove that part from it and it's just you got to follow orders, believe it, then she's got to come. Simple as that. Nothing we can do about it, Dick. She's got to come, and you get rid of this slightly confusing thing here. The last bit where it's fairly lengthy, it's only a couple pages, but it feels a bit anticlimactic because we have this great ending with them getting on the plane. But I believe the basic reason you've got this tag on here at the end is because Julius isn't convinced he understands why she's supposed to be sent. Remy, can you look into it? Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I would keep the tag. Like, my suggestion would be you could keep the tag, but make it super brief. Like, he pulls out the phone one more time. He says, Remy, yeah, what do you need? Can you find out why this girl's coming? I just talked to Baker and he gave me some bullshit line about how I just have to follow orders, but I suspect there may be more to this. The end. That kind of a thing. Or save it till the beginning of the next chapter. But I like it as a tag. I would rather you kept it here and just made it way shorter than that. Like, get to the punch, because the emotional place you put me in when they're getting on the plane is one of, kind of tenderness, because I can see that this could be the beginning of a potentially working relationship between Ramona and Julius, because Dick has given her at least enough of an insight into him to realize maybe I should give this guy a chance.
I could also just shove it into the beginning of the first chapter next chapter.
You could, but my suggestion I like what you're doing here. I think it's a great tag. I think two extra pages past the point where the story's high emotional point is too long personally. But I feel like if it's just a quick, he gets on the phone with Remy and says, we're on our way. I just talked to Baker. I feel like there may be more to this than I realize, than I could see. Can you look into it for me? I love that. I think that idea is super, super valuable at the end, because that's a hell of a hook. Like, I am completely engaged because, like, oh, okay, because I still don't mind you dropping the idea that Baker might be up to something, but not in the long way that it currently exists. Just the mention of it at the end, where it's like, I'm not sure I'm getting the whole picture here, Remy. Can you look into it? That's cool. So personally, I would keep it, but I would just shorten it. And with those minor changes, whatever you decide to do here, and potentially just go through my notes here. The fat thing again didn't really work for me, so I would just cut to the chase, take the focus off of Baker, put the focus on Julius, open on Ramona's heart a little bit to him, and show that this could be the beginning of a relationship that over time works. But Remy, I think there's something I don't know. Can you look into it? Is a wicked way to end. So I would trust your gut on that. Trust your instincts, because that really works for me.
Okay.
There you go.
And you didn't have any time to look at interlude then, right?
No, that took the whole time, but I will go through that. I think I can go through that and 11 for next week. How long is 11?
I don't remember.
Let me just look it up. 9 pages, and your interlude is pretty short too, isn't it?
Oh yeah, it's like barely anything.
Oh yeah. I'll probably have no problem getting both through the interlude and 11 for next week. But this was stellar, man. Like, I am so proud of you with this week. Like, this was very engaging. And you know what? Every single chapter you've written where you do this, or some version of this, where you're getting inside the head of a character that we need to get inside of, especially Ramona, still the most vibrant and interesting character of the story. I know it should be Julius, but he's a very close runner-up. but she is,
Well, they're co-protagonists, so it doesn't really
yeah,
matter which one's taking the show.
exactly. No, but the fact that you've created two, so you've given me two really beautiful, intriguing, three-dimensional characters at the heart of your story now. And it's funny because I was thinking like 6 months ago we were talking about should we keep Jack, right? Like it was still that question when we still had a different recruit. I am so glad you went with this storyline and you gave Ramona, who was just the girl in the graveyard who originally. She's become such an amazing part of your story that I'm hooked. I'm absolutely hooked on these two. So
Well,
great
actually, no.
writing.
Originally, she was a season 2 character. Then I changed her
Oh,
powers from star powers to plant powers, and I just realized I made a horrible mistake down the line, and now I've got to figure out a new superpower for her to use when they all get swarmed by locusts. Because right now
but
right now in that scene she's just standing around doing nothing,
oh, fair,
which admittedly is because it's locusts and they really can't do anything until Julius makes the pesticide.
fair, fair. Oh, well, I can't wait to see that. No, this was exciting. My heart was pounding when I was reading this. I was like, whoa, it's just awesome. So well done.
Great. Any suggestions for druid superpowers? I can't think of any on the spot right now.
Druid superpowers that could what's the magnitude? What does it need to be able to do?
Um, just anything to stop a swarm of insects, or hold a swarm of insects.
She creates a giant toad that eats them all.
No, plant specific.
Oh, for God's
Yeah, we're
sake.
not
Okay,
we're,
Venus.
we're
So
not doing the
one
animal
huge
stuff.
Venus.
We're digging down onto the plant theme.
Okay, so one huge Venus flytrap that swallows them all. Or a pitcher plant. Like that's what I mean. Think of anything in the plant world that takes care of insects, pitcher plants, Venus flytraps, that kind of thing.
Hmm.
That could be fun. Like it depends on how wild and crazy you want to go, but if that kind of thing happens, that could be really fun.
Okay.
Other than that, plants releasing, you could also do where plants release some kind of a toxin into the air. That's less interesting than seeing a huge pitcher plant, but it could work.
Well, part of it is just this is kind of supposed to be the what's the word? This is the scene where Ramona realized her superpowers aren't really a guarantee of safety. Like with Matthias, you can beat him to death with a tree. With a billion tiny insects that are like flying piranhas, a lot less effective.
Right. Well, and you could do it where she creates this creature or this plant thing, and it gets the thing, but then it turns on them for a moment. And she's like, "Whoa, okay, got to keep that power under control." Like she's still learning how to direct it the right way and stuff like that. But
Yeah, but
it's
at the same time,
sort of like
I don't want to have like an Elsa thing.
fair, yeah, or like an early stage Doctor Strange where he didn't quite know how to use his powers
Yeah,
yet.
because my main problem with a lot of those is it feels like all of those can basically be summed up as send them to magical boot camp and they'll be fine.
Fair. Whatever you want to do, but I like the idea of, if you're going to use plants, use what already exists in the plant world to deal with insects.
Mm-hmm. Right. So I'm gonna go make those changes. Thanks, Paul. I'll see you next Monday then, I guess. Yeah.
Sounds good. Looking forward to it.
Uh,
And if you have a new either interlude or chapter 11, if you can get it to me by Sunday,
I'll,
otherwise I'll just read
yeah,
what you
I'll
have.
probably double check. I think yeah, I'll make some changes to interlude to make it kind of more on point what Baker's doing since we're taking that away from this chapter.
Okay.
And I'll probably give chapter 11 another pass just to see how it works.
Awesome.
Perfect.
No, great work, Hayden. Looking
See
forward
you
to
then,
it.
Paul.
Okay, take care. Bye
Okay.
bye.
Bye.